Ronnie Floyd is a leader of leaders with a vision to change the world. The 4 Leaders podcast with Ronnie Floyd is committed to investing, inspiring, and influencing your life and leadership today. With a legacy of investing in thousands and thousands of leaders throughout the years who've led in multiple arenas of leadership. Now is the time, and today is the day for Ronnie Floyd to invest, inspire, and influence you in a serious and responsible way. So spread the news and share the 4 Leaders podcast with others around the world. Now, here's your host, Ronnie Floyd.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching the 4 Leaders podcast today or listening wherever you may be around the world. We do hope that you will share with others about this podcast that comes out every Wednesday. And it really is trying to be a helpful podcast that will help you not only in your personal life, but make an investment in your life and into your future, into your organization, into whatever you are leading or whatever you're contributing in leadership to do to make a difference in your life, whether it be in the workplace or in ministry, medicine, healthcare, whatever it may be. May God use this to really bless your life and challenge you to be everything you need to be. Now today we're coming to you on episode 25. Can you believe it? We have been almost coming to you for 1/2 year, but we're one shy of that, and this is episode number 25, and I want to talk to you about a very, very important subject. In fact, it was a lunchtime interview, a lunchtime really investment time into an individual a week ago that really challenged me to bring this to fruition even for all of us today. I want to talk about evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of your organization. How do you evaluate the strengths and the weaknesses of your organization? Now again, your organization could be a medical practice, or it could be your athletic team, or it could be a community function that you do together. It could be your workplace environment. It could be the church that you lead. It could be other things. And so this is a multiple organizational thought process that we're going to lead you through today. But the bottom line is we're talking about how can we talk about with our teams the strengths and the weaknesses of the organization that we are leading or we are leading together in any way whatsoever at all. Now, some of you that do know me realize that I am a big college football fan. While many teams may have already played as many as 5 games this year, now that open dates are occurring and beginning to occur, those open dates can become times of evaluation. Or perhaps when you get into really a massive competitive environment with perhaps one of your rivals or one of the greatest teams in the country, and you really find out more what you're built in and what you're made of than you knew before, then you can really begin to think about the strengths and the weaknesses. Well, this past weekend, the last weekend of September, afforded for us some of the great, incredible, and memorable games of all times. And so with these times, we hear matters by the pundits about, you're going to see teams at the best of the best and at the same time at their worst of the worst. But we can all learn if we are willing to grow through where we are today and become better than where we are even now. Well, as I said a moment ago, last week I had a lunchtime with a friend, a younger leader that I mentor along the way, and it's always a joy to touch base with him and to hear about his life and about what is happening and what is going on in the organization that he leads. And one of the things that we got on last week together, for whatever reason of conversation, was about really evaluations. How do you really evaluate the organization that you lead? Evaluations like these that I'm speaking about will usually occur in a significant moment along the year of calendar or a significant period of time in the life of the leader. For example, if a leader is about to celebrate an anniversary, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, whatever it may be, it may cause pause for thinking about where have we been, where are we going, what are our strengths, and what are our weaknesses. Or perhaps, which most of the time, they're not driven by even those significant moments, but they're driven by the significance of the year. For example, many organizations begin afresh and anew in January, and they look at their fiscal year from that perspective. They look at their entire organizational year from that perspective, and that's the way they see things to be. So they begin to really move into that evaluative mode in November, December, and maybe even into the first few weeks of January as they cast the vision for the organization for the days to come. Well, I believe it's important when we lead any organization or we're a part of a team, we have to understand whether or not these are moments in the organization where we're readiness to change, or whether we are fighting change, whether we are eager to grow in the organization, or perhaps the team has become somewhat unable to grow together in an effective way, or perhaps the organization has hit a lid on its leadership, a lid on what it appears that can be done in the culture that they're trying to reach and the difference that they're trying to make. And then, the other thing is, are organizations really healthy? Do they really want to grow? Are they really eager to grow? You have to look at all sorts of things, including work ethic. I can promise you that I have been a part of organizations before. Just the work ethic was not there originally. There's not the sellout of, listen, we're here to make a difference with our life and we're going to give our all and all that. Many times that takes time. And the health of an organization is critical in every way in relationship to these matters. Now, while these are very important discussions to have with perhaps your staff team or even with a volunteer team or a combination of both, they can be healthy. All that depends on, what kind of organization you lead. So I'm not going to go into the depths of that because I would have to create all kinds of scenarios, which would be not helpful for anyone here today, whoever listens to this podcast. But I do believe that we can find a helpful way together as a team of staff members, or as a team of even nothing but lay people, people that are just volunteers in an organization. But most of our organizations are not volunteer oriented. People receive salaries, people receive bonuses, people receive the accolades from their field of study or their field of expertise, or they have achieved things together in a great way as a team. So we're going to probably think a little bit more on that line of thought. But what is a helpful way that we can really evaluate the strengths and the weaknesses of an organization? What I thought it would be helpful today is to help us create a path for doing that. And how could we, in this short podcast, create and help you create a pathway for evaluating the strengths or the weaknesses or both of those in the organization that you lead. So what I did, based off of what I've done before in my mind and with groups that I've been able to lead through the many years of leadership, and even the other day, and again, going through some things with this individual that I had this lunchtime meeting with, it became apparent to me that one of the most simple ways I could give it to you would be to give you a 90-minute idea with your team. In other words, if you had 90 minutes and you wanted to spend 90 minutes with your team, how could you create a 90-minute idea whereby you could put some key and trusted staff persons in with you and you evaluate the strengths and the weaknesses of the team that you have together and the organization that you serve? Let me give you a couple of thoughts on this, on how big that meeting should be. I think that really depends on the moment. It depends on the organization. I'm really big on involving as many people as possible because I think the more people you involve in the process, you will end up having a much more effective product as you go along the way. And there are people at certain levels of the organization that need to give input because they see things that perhaps even some of your key leaders are not able to see because they are kept away from the fray due to their leadership responsibilities. But you could think about this in one of three ways. You could think about putting a leadership team together of 8 to 12 people in the room for a 90-minute segment of time. Or if you wanted to expand that leadership team, you could go from 18 to 25 persons in that room for that 90-minute segment of time. Or if you felt you just really needed to have more of a private time with key senior members of your team, then keep it from 4 to 7 people in the room with you over this 90-minute idea. I do believe any one of those pathways can be helpful to you. And I really believe, again, from me personally, and I'm not threatened by this, is that I always believed in more getting an opportunity to evaluate than less, because I found it to bring great help to the organization because people see things from the seat that they sit on in the bus, as we so say. And so we all learn from each other, and it's very, very important that we do that. Now, regardless of the path that you choose on the size of that meeting, I believe you can handle any one of these in a very similar manner. Now, as the leader, you need to give a perspective. If that's what you are, if you're going to lead this team, you need to give a perspective that I am eager to hear from you. You're going to build a culture of sincerity and safety and learning from all of you. I believe deeply that if you come at this where you have an agenda, you're not going to help your team at all. You're going to hurt your team. But if you come with it with an eagerness, I want to hear from you, I want to learn from you, and for 90 minutes, we're going to brainstorm together about where we are as an organization, and we're going to look at our strengths, and we're going to look at our weaknesses, and we're all going to contribute to this, not only in speaking, but in writing. And so let me share with you how I would break these things down. First of all, everyone will be given one page when they come in the room and you begin to explain what's going on. This one page they will use to write down their thoughts. They don't have to put their name on it. You may or may not turn it in. That depends on whether or not you want to see it or not, or whether or not you feel like you've heard it, which is the real key more than even seeing it. But I want you to give to them, each of them, 15 minutes to write out their thoughts. All right? And I'm going to talk about in just a moment about what their thoughts need to be about. But I want you to just imagine I'm going to come in. I'm going to explain the situation to them. I'm going to give them 15 minutes to write down their thoughts. And I want them to be helpful. I want it to be tangible responses to the questions. There's not a right response. There's not a wrong response. There's not a true and false in this. It's from where you sit, doing what you do. How do you see things going today? And then here's what everyone is going to receive. They're going to receive 30 questions on their piece of paper that they receive. Here's the first question. You're going to ask them to write down 2 to 3 great strengths of the organization right now and why they think each one of these is strong presently. So the first question is going to be, I want you to write down for me 3 great strengths of what you see the organization to be right now, and why do you think all 3 of those are strong presently? That's the first question. Second question they're going to talk about, and all of this is them responding in a 15-minute period of time with just them, only them. They're not going to work in groups then. This is an individual, personal thing that then becomes group-oriented. But the second thing you want them to write down is 1 to 2 weaknesses of the organization right now. From what they see, would you please write down 1 or 2 weaknesses of our organization right now and why you think each one is weak presently? All right? And is this impacting the organization negatively? All right? Because there can be things that you're not good at, but they may not have a strong impact upon the organization in a massive way. At the same time, if they are really severe, which some probably will be, they could be bringing great negative impact in a very unhelpful manner. So the second question would be, I want you to write down for me 1 to 2 weaknesses of the organization we have right now. What is it? Why each is weak presently, and how much are they impacting the organization negatively? All right? Then there's a third thing they're going to write down in that 15-minute period of time, and it's in only one 15-minute period of time where all 3 of these things are going to be answered by this individual that's sitting in that room with you, whether they be 4 to 7, whether it be the 8 to 15, or even more than that, up to 24, 25 people. So you decide that. And then the third thing would be this. If you could change one thing today about the organization that we do presently, what would you change? In other words, if there's one thing, if I had the power to do it, to change in our organization, I would change it today. Okay? Now, this is your perspective. Some of these are going to be outstanding ideas. Some of them are going to be, oh, we can't do that. That's dumb. We can't, it's dumb. But we know that there are things that are going to be in any meeting that are just not going to be acceptable. All right? I mean, it's just too radical for the realities of the organization itself. But you also have to be realistic and honest that there may be some things that are so glaring that you as the leader, you cannot see them. But they're glaring to everyone else in the organization. And so you've got to have people around you that are willing to be honest with you. And then you've got to be able to say, listen, you know what? That's something I've never even thought about. That's worth thinking about. Or you could say, you're exactly right. I agree with you. I just don't know how we could ever do that at this time right now. We might can a year from now, 2 years from now, but perhaps not right now. Now let's continue on. Remember, we're talking about a 90-minute exercise. So here's how I want you to break this 90-minute exercise down. All right? The first 5 minutes you get people in the room, you explain to them what you're going to do. Then you will have a 15-minute period of time. Have a clock that everybody can see, a countdown of it. 15 minutes to answer the questions on the piece of paper. The 3 questions I gave you just a moment ago. And then 5 minutes to encourage organization evaluation that will inspire honesty, transparency, teachability, and a future. In other words, guys, in a minute, we're going to talk about these answers. You've written them down, and we don't need to be threatened by them. And I want you to know as a leader, I'm not going to be threatened by them. I want you to be honest with me. I want you to be transparent to me. I want you to teach me because I need to learn. There are things I'm not going to know that you're going to share. And then what is our future together? All right? So you've given now, you're in 25 minutes of the meeting. 5, 15, and 5. And then now you're going to go into 3 different 15-minute segments. 15 minutes for strengths. You write down on a whiteboard. When people talk about the strengths, you write them down on a whiteboard. All right? And if there are duplications, then you just note the duplication. The second 15 minutes is relationship to weaknesses. Write down on a whiteboard all the answers. Go around the room. Now, Joe or Nancy, what do you have as a couple of our weaknesses or strengths? Well, I don't know if I should really say this. No, I want you to say this. So go ahead. We're going to talk about it. We're safe here. All right? We're safe in this environment. We're not going to hold anything back. We're not going to hold. We're evaluating the organization. We're not evaluating people. We're evaluating the organization. So let's keep it out of the mire of personalities, and let's just talk about what we do together here, our strengths, our weaknesses. In that final 15 minutes is that daring time. Well, if I could change one thing in the organization, I tell you what I'd change. I'd change this today because I think it hurts us. Or I think we can be so much better if we can just learn to do this like right now. Not next week, not next year, but right now. We can change a lot of perspectives in a good manner. So therein lies the first 70 minutes of a 90-minute meeting. Now, let's talk about the final 20 minutes of that meeting. I want to just review real quickly because I know I'm giving you a lot in this, but I want to do it because I want to help you. You're going to come into the meeting, 90-minute meeting, 5 minutes to explain what we're going to do, and then 15 minutes for them to answer the 3 questions that are going to be on that paper. And then you're going to have to pump them up for 5 minutes. They've written down things that they didn't think they'd ever write down. So you need to really encourage them to be honest and transparent and teachable. And let's talk about our future. Let's keep it out of personalities. We're talking about the organization itself. All right? And then you're going to go into 3 15-minute sessions. One on strengths, one on weaknesses, one on changing one thing in the organization, which would help it greatly. And use whiteboards where you can have everything seen at one time in all of this. And then the final 20 minutes of the 90-minute exercise. What do we do? This is a critical 20 minutes. All right? All right. Now that we look at our strengths, what did we learn today? What did we learn? All right, we have 15 strengths up here that we feel we have, but we're only going to say we're going to go with our top 3. Is there an apparent top 3? Or do we need to come to reality about what those 3 things are that we need to do well? Because we need to celebrate all 15 of them, okay? But at the same time, we really need to celebrate the best 3 because we knew we do these better than most people can do them. The second thing is you want to do in that final 20 minutes is what did we learn together about our weaknesses? In other words, what does this tell us about our 2 major weaknesses presently within our organization? Did we learn anything? You say, well, we have seven weaknesses here. Okay, now let's come to reality. We all deal with this and we're going to see it differently, but let's get value from one another and let's try to come to the 2 of the most glaring weaknesses we have that we've got to address in our organization. all right? And then how we're going to do that. And then the final part of that, did we learn anything from each other about one thing that if we could change it all, what would it be? What would it be? Is there a commonality of thought? In other words, your organization may have a process that puts something together. Perhaps somebody from the business office designed it, or something happened in the personnel area or something, and they got kind of into the weeds too much, and people just drives people crazy when they have to do that. And they look and they say, listen, why don't we do it this way? This can change the whole attitude of what we're trying to do, and it will still accomplish what we're trying to accomplish in the business office or wherever it may be. Do you follow what I'm saying? Okay, we've all been in those discussions, and we know they exist. So anyway, just try to define, is there one or two things that, we need to change, and we can really rapidly make a difference in our organization together? The processes are key. Listen carefully to this. I learned this probably 30 years ago, and I've never forgotten to tell people along the way. The process always precedes the product. If you want a different product, you've got to deal with your processes. And if you're not willing to deal with your processes, you're not going to see anything on the product that will be any different whatsoever at all. So let me wrap it up now. So one of the ways you can wrap this up, and it will maybe be a tremendous ad for you, would be this. 1 week from today, we're going to come back in this room for 40 minutes. 40 minutes. And we're going to consider what we see today. In other words, what does 1 week away from these things, what did we learn? Did we learn the right thing in here? Did we need to consider something that maybe we didn't talk about? What was wrong that we considered, and we know we can't do that, and that's just not going to be fair and right for everyone involved? Or what can we really take away that we've settled our thoughts? You may come in that meeting, and in 30 minutes you may say, you know what, we learned a great deal about our organization, and we need to celebrate our strengths. We need to address our weaknesses. We need to do this one or two things that can change the whole spirit of the organization in a positive way. All right, and so whatever that may be, learn from those things. I believe, listen carefully, I'd really believe that this exercise would be helpful for any organization. I've led them. Organizations of all kinds and all sizes and all ways. Volunteers all the way to full employees. This same line of thought that I just shared with you about strengths, weaknesses, if you could change one thing about your job, what would it be? Or the situation in whatever you're going through. You could do all these evaluations, not only about the organization, but even with an individual in the organization in days to come. And that could be someone's personnel evaluation if you wanted all the evaluations to be like that. Obviously, when you evaluate personnel, it's one-on-one evaluation of personnel. It's not evaluating personnel in a public forum. It's a one-on-one encounter, a dynamic that only can happen between the supervisor and between the person who is working with that supervisor. We know that there is protocol for that. There needs to be done in the highest manner with the highest integrity possible. But listen, we can learn from all these things. And I just wanted to bring all of this to you today, to lay before you. You know, how do we deal with these things? How do you evaluate the strengths and the weaknesses of your organization? That's what this episode 25 has been, that is released on this date in October, the 2nd day of October in 2024. And we really want to challenge you to spend some of those times. We're entering the final quarter of the year, and I promise you that the vast majority of your organizations, if not all of your organizations, would gain a tremendous value from a 90-minute meeting and then a 40-minute meeting following up the next week. There is no telling what good can come from a meeting like this and the follow-up meeting as well that can help your organization ascend. I close with this. If you are not willing to deal with the hard questions of your organization, then who in the world will and who in the world can? You and your team, it's on your watch that you have to deal with those hard questions. And you know what? They're not all that hard. Sometimes they appear to be hard because we may not want to address them or talk about them. But that may be because our own uncomfort with them or discomfort with them, and we just don't want to make others to feel more comfortable. Listen, you're not there to feel comfort about your organization or to create discomfort. You're there to grow the organization into being healthy and productive in whatever you are there to do in that organization. So may you apply principles like these and principles like others that you can create and you can know to do anything you can to evaluate the positive, the negative, the strengths and the weaknesses, and that one thing, if I could change it, what would it be? Listen, share this with teams, share this with organizations, share it with friends, and please write it every time you do it. Give it a good rating so others will be able to see it all across the world. God bless you. Thank you for joining us on Ronnie Floyd on 4 Leaders Podcast, and may the Lord be with you and give you a great, great week ahead.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information on Ronnie Floyd, go to 4leaders.com. We'll see you next time.